The enduring wisdom of George Washington. When a nation was still learning how to stand, its first leader learned first how to listen, to conscience, to restraint, to responsibility. These words were not written to inspire applause, but to steady a fragile republic and remind ordinary people that character matters long after power fades. As you listen, let these thoughts move at their own pace. Stay with them. Somewhere between silence and reflection, you may hear something meant for you today. It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one. Discipline is the soul of an army. Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. Happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected. Few men have virtue to withstand the highest bidder. Be courteous to all, but intimate with few. To be prepared for war is one of the most effective means of preserving peace. It is infinitely better to have no excuse than to have a bad one. Real men despise battle, but will never run from it. Associate yourself with men of good quality if you esteem your own reputation. Experience teaches us that men are much more easily governed through their vices than through their virtues. Let your heart feel for the afflictions and distresses of everyone. Guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism. A primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. If freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led, like sheep to the slaughter. Perseverance and spirit have done wonders in all ages. Worry is the interest paid by those who borrow trouble. The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph. Human happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected. There is nothing which can better deserve your patronage than the promotion of science and literature. Let us raise a standard to which the wise and honest can repair. The preservation of the sacred fire of liberty is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. The best policy is to be honest. Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. It is better to be alone than in bad company. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. True friendship is a plant of slow growth. Let us, with caution, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. Wherever the standard of freedom and independence has been or shall be unfurled, there will her heart, her benedictions, and her prayers be. A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined. The Constitution is the guide which I never will abandon. Nothing is a better evidence of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led, like sheep to the slaughter. The time is now near at hand, which must probably determine whether Americans are to be freemen or slaves. It is our true policy to steer clear of permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world. Let your discourse with men of business be short and comprehensive. Be slow in choosing a friend, slower in changing. To practice 5 things under all circumstances constitutes perfect behavior. The basis of our political systems is the right of the people to make and to alter their constitutions of government. The unity of government, which constitutes you one people, is also now dear to you. The Constitution is the result of a spirit of amity and of that mutual deference and concession which the peculiarity of our political situation rendered indispensable. There is nothing so likely to produce peace as to be well prepared to meet an enemy. The people made the Constitution, and the people can unmake it. Nothing can be more hurtful to the service than the neglect of discipline. Let us not be afraid to tell the truth. Justice and benevolence will promote our happiness as a nation. To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace. The best and only safe road to honor, glory, and true dignity is justice. Example, whether it be good or bad, has a powerful influence. Labor to keep alive in your breast that little spark of celestial fire called conscience. Reflecting the words of George Washington feels less like studying history and more like standing quietly beside a man who understood the cost of leadership long before the rewards. These are not the words of someone chasing admiration. They are the words of someone carrying weight, knowing that every decision, every silence, every restraint would echo far beyond his own lifetime. What strikes you first is how often Washington speaks about character rather than power. He does not glamorize victory. He warns about discipline, conscience, restraint, and preparation. In an age where leadership is often loud and performative, his voice is measured, almost private. It reminds us that real authority doesn't announce itself. It proves itself, slowly, through conduct. There is a quiet tension running through his wisdom, the understanding that freedom is fragile. Washington knew liberty could not survive on passion alone. It required habits. It required morality. It required people willing to choose what was right even when no one was watching. Listening to his words today, you can almost feel the uncertainty of a new nation, unfinished, untested, depending not on ideals alone, but on the daily behavior of its citizens. Many of these quotes carry a deep respect for self-control. Washington believed that a person who cannot govern themselves has no business governing others. He valued silence over empty argument, preparation over bravado, and patience over impulse. There's a kind of stillness in that philosophy,
a reminder that strength is often found in what we refuse to do. And then there is his realism about human nature. Washington was not naive. He understood ambition, jealousy, and corruption. He warned that virtue is easily sold, that false patriotism can be more dangerous than open enemies. These aren't cynical observations, they are sober ones. He wasn't disappointed in humanity, he was alert to its weaknesses. That alertness, that clear-eyed view of people as they are, is what made his hope for a better republic credible. As the quotes unfold, another theme becomes impossible to ignore: responsibility outlasting the individual. Washington speaks often as if he knows he will not be there to see the consequences of his choices. His concern is not legacy in the modern sense, but continuity. He writes for the future, warning, advising, steadying hands he will never shake. That long view is rare. It asks us a hard question: are we living only for our moment or for what comes after us? There's also an emotional restraint here that feels almost foreign today. Washington does not indulge in outrage. He does not perform virtue. He treats morality as a daily discipline, not a public identity. Reading his words can feel like slowing down after years of noise. They don't rush you. They ask you to pause, to measure yourself quietly. Perhaps the most powerful realization is this: these quotes don't demand agreement, they demand reflection. They don't tell you what to think, they ask who you are when tested, when comfort is threatened, when silence is easier than truth, when principle costs you something. In that way, Washington's wisdom isn't locked in the past, it's unfinished. It waits for each generation to meet it halfway, to decide whether discipline still matters, whether honesty is still the safest policy, whether freedom is still worth the effort it requires to maintain. As we step back from these words, we're left with something deeper than inspiration. We're left with responsibility. The responsibility to carry forward what we claim to admire, to remember that nations are not held together by speeches, but by character, quietly practiced, imperfectly lived, and renewed every day. And maybe that's the enduring lesson here. Wisdom doesn't shout, it endures.